All right. Good evening. With this weather, the timing couldn't be better for an online lecture. My name's Raleigh Green, and tonight's presentation, The Archaeology of Kingston, New York, is a part of the Hurley Heritage Society lecture series. Before we get started, a couple quick notes. Please be sure you're on mute to ensure everybody can hear our guest speaker and that there are no interruptions. During the presentation, if you have a question, feel free to use the chat feature, which is available to the right side of your monitor, and to send your questions, and they'll be answered during the presentation or at the end. At the conclusion of the formal presentation, we'll open things up to further questions and conversation, and at that time, be sure to unmute yourselves. The presentation is being recorded and it will be posted on the Hurley Heritage Society website in the coming days. We'll notify the public on our Facebook page, but just you can come back to the website within a week or so. It should be there along with the rest of our lecture series archive. So without further ado, let me introduce to you our guest speaker, SUNY New Paltz professor and writer, Dr. Joseph Diamond. He'll be talking about the Archaeology of Kingston and sharing some details from his new book called The Archaeology of Kingston, New York. It covers Kingston and to a lesser extent New York and the Hudson Valley from Paleo-Indian times dating back 12,000 years to sites around the city from the 19th century. The book brings together new information on over 82 archaeological sites and includes also 6 related sites just outside the city boundary. Along with archaeological discussions, the book includes information about local geology as well as flora and fauna that were important dietary components of pre-contact Native Americans. The Archaeology of Kingston, New York offers a complete introduction to the region for anyone interested in New York history and its study and recovery. The book will be available for purchase online, including Amazon, starting tomorrow. Welcome and congratulations, Joe Diamond.
Okay. Okay. So here to talk about the book. It's been sent out to some people already if they ordered it earlier. I think it is going to be available, as Raleigh said, on Amazon starting tomorrow. So it'll be out there. So this is the cover painting that Len Tantillo allowed me to use. What you're seeing here is a painting of Kingston, probably about 1695, from right about where the corner of Hurley Avenue and Washington Avenue is. So basically, you're kind of like looking. The pond is over on the right. The Hoffman House would be kind of like in left center there, just inside the stockade, and those little buildings in the foreground. I'm sorry, like midway would be right about where Dysings are. Is at the moment. So what you have here is a guy bringing hay in on the left, and basically that's a hayrick in the upper right, which is basically what the Dutch would pile their hay under so that their farm animals could just eat some kind of dry hay. Go ahead. So this is a map provided by Sue Cahill. The 82 sites I looked at were within the corporate boundary of the city, and you can see that kind of gold boundary around the outside. I then added 6 other sites from the town of Hurley, town of Ulster, and then also the town of Esopus, because they're really, really pretty amazing sites. And the other thing is, if you're living within the corporate boundary of Kingston about 6,000 years ago, you really don't know it yet. So basically, you're just kind of walking around the landscape doing things in the town of Ulster, in the town of Hurley, crossing the creek and doing looking for different lithics or hunting or fishing in the town of Esopus. So that was kind of this is kind of my study area right here. Go ahead, Raleigh. So the other thing I wanted to do with this talk is introduce some of the major players in Kingston's archaeology. This is my professor, Bert Sullivan from NYU. Bert was instrumental in working at the Clinton Avenue site in the 1970s, just across from the Senate House. And Bert was doing in the 1970s some of the first historical archaeology in New York State. At the same time, you also had Paul Huey a little bit later doing stuff up in Albany. But that excavation at Clinton Avenue was very early, and I'll get into that in a little while. But that's the first location in New York State where they actually found one of the Dutch stockades. Go ahead, Raleigh. So these are also the main players in Kingston. You have the McAvoys on the left. You have Bert Sullivan and his wife Sarah Bridges in the middle, and then you have Paul Huey and Lois Feister on the right. Basically, Joe worked at and Teresa, his wife, worked at the Senate House. Bert and Sarah worked at the Clinton Avenue and then also on Green Street. And Paul and Lois worked at the Senate House site, the Maston House lot, and that whole area for literally decades. And then Paul also did an excavation down at the Low Bogart's house back in the, I think it was like the early 1970s. So these are like the people that are doing most of the work in Kingston in the 1970s. Go ahead. So this is another person who's instrumental in doing archaeology in Kingston. On the left, you have Len Eisenberg, my professor at SUNY New Paltz and a good friend of mine. Alvin Wanzer with a big smile on his face, another great friend of mine. Tom Turk with the checkered pants on, and then down in the lower right, Art Carver. And these folks are the three on the left, from Alvin down to Art, are members of the New York State Archaeological Association chapter, and they're working on a site called the right down next to the Hendrickson site called the Perry site. Go ahead. So a couple of years ago, one of my students met somebody who had collected down in Kingston, down by Pankaki when he was a kid, and he didn't want me to use his real name, so I just used the initials. It's called the CR collection. So I went up to Athens one day, and we photographed this collection. And what you're seeing here are the earliest projectile points. Upper left, the first two are early archaic, right around 8000 BC. As you kind of work your way across, the two on the right are Neville points at around 6300 BC, and the ones across the bottom are from the Virgins and the Vosburg phase at around 4000 to around 3000 BC. So these are the earliest groupings of projectile points from that particular site. Go ahead. Similarly, and again, there were a lot of these. These are projectile points that could either be called Lamoka or Sylvan stemmed. They date from around 3200 BC to about 2500 BC. And one of the nice things you're seeing here is that people are changing their projectile point styles. We have carbon dates for those. And basically, when you find one without a carbon date, you have a general idea about how early they are. Go ahead. What we have here are some later points. On the left, some Genesee points, some Norman skill, and yeah, then just some side notch points that are ranging right around about 1700 BC. Go ahead. Some even later points. On the upper left, you have two Snookhill points at about 14 or 1500 BC. I'm sorry, 1600 BC. And then basically two Susquehanna points, some Orient fishtail points. Those three projectile points with the little fishy tails. And then down on the bottom, an Adena point, two Rossvilles, and then some Jack's Reef pentagonals. So these make the range from around 1600 BC to right up into about 700 AD. Go ahead. These are all late. These are the except for the two in the last photo, the Jack's Reef pentagonals. All the previous ones were projectile points on spears, darts, or javelins. These are actually arrow points. So these are the late ones that you would see from about maybe 900 AD right up until European contact. And again, they're just triangles that go on an arrow. They're very similar to what you see if you go into like Bass Pro Shops and you look at a modern arrow, just a triangle that's hafted. Go ahead. CR collection, on the upper left, you have a three-quarter grooved axe. On the lower left, you have a gouge. Those two are woodworking tools. On the right, you have two pestles for processing. It could be corn, beans. It could be any kind of nut like acorns, hickory, chestnut, walnut. Anything kind of like that. These are used as we would normally use a mortar and pestle nowadays. Very often they have a flat side so that you can grind them on a large different kinds of food products on a what's called a metate. Go ahead. So this is the Hendrickson site. This is right next to what I just showed you. One of the things that Tom Turk did was he asked Mrs. Hendrickson if this would have been early 1980s, if he could look in her yard. And what Tom did was he dug a couple squares and he came up with a really nice collection of artifacts. On the upper left there, you have a Brewerton side notched at around 3200 BC. You have that full range of artifacts going from 3200 BC to maybe about 1500 or 1600 AD down in the lower right. So this was a good indication to Tom that it was a really important site. Go ahead. These are some of the ceramics from the Hendrickson site in the Tom Turk collection. Now these are mostly 1, 2, 3, 4. Most of these are rim fragments, which are the most diagnostic. So what you're seeing here is a lot of ceramics with cord wrapped designs. So you take a little stick, you wrap twine around it, and you rock it back and forth on the ceramic, and that's what gives you those designs. On the lower left, you'll see a fragment of a pot that actually has a drill hole through it, so that it could be mended and maybe extend its use life just a little bit, just to get a little more cooking time out of it, and then it broke. In the lower right, you see two pieces that actually have kind of like a zigzag design and then a kind of a chevron design. Those are the latest of the whole group in there. These range from probably right around, I'm thinking about 300 or 400 AD right up until about 14 to 1500 AD. Go ahead. So this is the Perry site. So what happened down in Pankaki was after Tom Turk found the Hendrickson site, he told Len Eisenberg about it, and then Len came and set up his field school for several years. And at the same time that Len was working, Tom went over and asked Mrs. Perry, the folks next door, if he could work in their yard. So what he did was he extended a line off of Len Eisenberg's grid system, and then they opened up 4 squares next to the Hendrickson site in the adjacent yard. And again, these are the same guys. There are some other people that worked on this also. Dick Stewart worked on it, and a number of other people from the Mid-Hudson chapter. It was kind of like an interesting way to see the Mid-Hudson chapter working literally side by side with SUNY New Paltz at the time. Go ahead. So these are from the Perry site. And what's interesting here is that projectile point in the upper left is a Palmer corner notched, which is about right around 7,500 to 8,000 BC. In the middle there, that large one is a what is it? Oh, that's an Otter Creek. And then and the two on the upper right are Vosburg points, and then across the bottom you have different kinds of Brewerton points, again, all from around 3,500 to about 2,500 BC. So these are the earliest ones from the Perry site. Go ahead. On the upper left, a piece of steatite pottery. So this would have been, it doesn't look like much, but this would have been a very, very large bowl, about this big around, that probably was quarried either in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, or Pennsylvania, and then basically shipped via canoe up into the Hudson Valley. We have the steatite bowl fragments from multiple locations around Kingston in town of Esopus, and then also down on Huguenot Street, and then in other locations up and down the valley. The other pottery fragments I'm showing you here are all probably from around 700 AD, right up until those last two pieces in the lower right that are incised, and probably right around 1400 AD or later. And you can also see the one in the lower left kind of middle that's got a round circle in it. That's not a mend hole. That's just basically somebody taking a round stick and poking it in so that it produces a little bulb on the inside of the pot. And again, these are all rim sherds except for the steatite fragment. Go ahead. Hold on, Raleigh. Go back. So the piece in the lower right, I think is probably made by a child. The pot might have been made by an adult, but the decoration there is very, very uncoordinated. It looks to me like it's somebody teaching their child how to learn how to decorate, because the coordination on that really leaves a lot to be desired. And we see children learning how to decorate pots on different archaeological sites up and down the valley. Go ahead. So this is the armory site. This is out on Manor Avenue. It was excavated after 9/11, when the federal government started to pump a lot of money into developing armories, expanding them, and because of federal laws, they had to do some archaeological survey first to see if there was an archaeological site there. And this sand terrace at the end of Manor Avenue has a huge archaeological site on it. So what you're seeing here is some of the larger, these are the largest block excavations in Kingston. That is a 5 by 5 meter block that they're standing on, and another 5 by 5 meter block in the foreground that's already been excavated. And you can see the woman on the kind of center left who's looking down with the baseball cap on. She's basically going to, she's in the process of getting ready to excavate a feature. Go ahead, Raleigh. Oh, that was the only shot I had for that. So go back one more time. Sorry about that. So the folks in here from SUNY New Paltz are Liz, who's sitting on the bucket, and then the guy in the background who is troweling with the blue handkerchief on his head. I don't have any artifacts from this because basically they excavated this, and the artifacts went down to New Jersey almost immediately. Go ahead. So this is the Abeille Street pre-contact site. So when they were redoing Abeille Street, we were monitoring what was happening the whole time. And if you can imagine standing outside the front door of the Armadillo and looking over towards where Hone Street comes down and meets Abeille Street, right there was a pre-contact site. It's right in front of where the fourth meatpacking plant was back in the 1960s and 70s. So these are the projectile points. The earliest one is that little guy down in the lower right, right above the 8 and the 9 on the scale. That's a Neville point from around 6300 BC. On the right, to the right of that is a little piece of middle woodland pottery from around 700 or 800 AD. And then across the top, you have a whole bunch of different projectile points from around 2500 BC to around 1400 BC. And again, we actually excavated a number of units on Abeille Street, and we found that the stuff had been moved around a lot. Actually, you could see where the foundation for the fourth meatpacking plant had like cut the site partially away, and then they built the concrete retaining wall there. So there was just a little bit of this left in the street. Go ahead. These are some of the other the other artifacts from Beale Street pre-contact site number one. In the middle there, you have a nutting stone. On the left, upper two left, you have two knives. Upper right two are two projectile point fragments. Bottom left, you have a scraper and a utilized flake, and then two projectile point fragments in the lower right. And again, sometimes this is what you get. You can't really tell what they are, other than the fact that they're part of a projectile point or some other kind of artifact. So this particular site goes from about 6300 BC right to about 700 or 800 AD. And of course, without monitoring that particular construction project, we wouldn't have even known about that. Go ahead, Raleigh. So for those of you that are interested in Native Americans in the Hudson Valley, I recommend my friend Bob Grumet's book. It is out in hardcover and in paperback. This is a really great book. I think I'm not sure if they have all the footnotes in the paperback, but I would suggest if you get this, read the footnotes first and then read the book. It's a really amazing book. And again, this also shows you the way that the local Munsee speakers in the Hudson Valley are dressed with leggings, with tattoos, with different kinds of a bow and arrow there, and also a trade hatchet. And of course, you'll see corn just on the very right there, and then a pot hanging from that branch. Go ahead. So this is Kingston in 1695. This is the Miller map. Some of the sites that I'm talking about here are going to be upper right, Senate House, NYU on Clinton Avenue, where Bert Solwin actually found the portion of that stockade. In the book, I talk about behind North Front Street, the Low Bogart's house, Sarah Bridges' work with NYU near the Hoffman House, where she was right along the bank. I have a big section on the Pearson House in the book. I also talk about Jay Cohen's excavations in the Old Dutch Church graveyard. What else do we have there? The DeWitt plot, which I'll show you guys in a few minutes. And then some Dutch church excavations that were done in the 1980s to look for the first church. That is a collection of artifacts I still need to kind of go through. I kind of went into the Old Dutch Church and looked at it with Rob Sweeney, and I need to get back to that at some point. So go ahead, Raleigh. So this is the Clinton Avenue site. This is what NYU found in 1970s. What you're seeing there is what Bert did was he took oyster shells and pieces of rock and he put them on the post molds to make them more visible. So what you're seeing is round circles with little piles of debris and artifacts on them so that they're more visible. Nowadays, we would probably spray that down with water and take photographs under different kinds of lighting conditions to actually show them off better. But they do show up pretty well. Go ahead. So in that excavation, they found a kind of like a lead or a pot metal seal of Vessel Tenbrook. Vessel Tenbrook is the guy who built the what is now the Senate House in one particular section, and then it's been expanded on in a number of different directions. This is kind of like it's either kind of like a lead or a pot metal. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's something that he used as like a signet where he could stamp hot wax on a document, which would kind of make sense. Normally that's going to be a ring, but I don't think that Vessel Tenbrook had enough money to have a signet ring carved. So this might actually just be for using on a wax seal. Go ahead. This is oh yeah, this is from an article that I have coming out. So this is from a 1687 survey map of the Tenbrook property, taken from Feister and Sopko's book from 2003 on the Senate House. So what you're seeing there is a drawing from 1687 looking right on Clinton Avenue, looking right at the building. So the gable end is actually facing Clinton Avenue. And you can also see up on top there that they actually have kind of like a crosshatch design. Those are probably pan tiles. Go ahead. That's what these are. These are red clay pan tiles that Jim Decker let me photograph. They are at his house, at the Elmendorf house in Hurley. So what you do is you kind of overlap these on purlins going horizontally, and they keep the rain out pretty well. You see these on Dutch houses in New Amsterdam, in Kingston. Let me try to think where else. You don't see these on Huguenot Street. I worked there for 20 years. We never found a fragment of a pan tile. And you also see these in New York City. Literally, we found tons and tons of these at the assay site that had been taken off of the houses and discarded into the East River. Go ahead. So this is Len Tantillo's painting from 2015 of what the original section of the Senate House would look like in 1687. So it's gable-ended facing the street. You have a chimney popping up out of the side. That could either be there or it could actually be further down the roof at the far end of the house. It's still, kind of conjectural because we don't really know because normally what happens with 18th century houses is they get kind of taken apart, moved around, and you're lucky if you can kind of figure out what's going on after several hundred years. Go ahead. So this is in 2020, in January of 2020, I was working inside the Senate House. The folks at the Senate House, Stacy Matson-Zuvik and some other folks were taking up the flooring in room 107 and room 110 because they were having problems with water wicking in from the outside and destroying either the wooden sills or 18th century portions of the house. So the question was, could we do archaeology while they had the floors up? And I said, yeah, we can do that. So during the winter, January 2020, I was outside in the yard to the right. You can actually see there below room 110, you can actually see the Dutch door installed mid 20th century. That's that open porch at the Senate House. So I was working out in the yard in about 12 to 15 degree temperatures, screening all the soil and looking through all this stuff. Go ahead. So this is inside room 110. This is stratum 1, I'm sorry, stratum 105.8. This is unit 1 for 2020. So what I did was I continued the context numbers or the stratum numbers that the State Historic Preservation Office, Paul Huey and Lois Feister and Joe McAvoy had been using here. So prior to this, they had actually already excavated 1,050 archaeological strata at the Senate House. So you can see what's nice is it was kind of warm in here, so I could actually like work inside. Okay, so hit the next one. So this is the base of stratum 154. So what you're seeing here are 1, 2, 3, 4, and then possibly a couple of other dark stains in the right side of this particular 3-foot square. Those are post molds, probably from a Native American structure, maybe about 700 or 800 AD. The pottery that I was getting in here is called Black Rock Trailed. So it's about 800 AD, maybe a little earlier. I didn't get any charcoal samples in here for dating though. So Tom Amorosi and I have a paper coming out on this called A House Within a House, which is about the Senate House and then also the Native American house that is literally on the inside of it. Go ahead. These are some of the artifacts from inside the Senate House. So you have Delft in the upper left. You have some clamshell, some crown glass, a little pipe fragment that says RT on it, and then 2 other small fragments of clam. One of the things that Tom and I noticed is that there are a lot of clam fragments here that are very, very small, and they were broken kind of mechanically We think that either the Tenbrooks or the Van Gasbeeks were either making wampum or possibly their enslaved individuals were, because these pieces are very, very too small for cooking or for grinding up for mortar. Lower left, you actually have three pieces of blue and white Delft. And then the two in the lower right are different kinds of slip decorated earthenwares. Both of these are actually either large plates or what are called chargers. Go ahead. Other little fragments. Upper left, a piece of copper, two pieces of slip decorated buff-bodied slip-decorated earthenware with little dots on them. Little piece of Delft in the upper right. All across that middle row are pieces of clamshell that have been broken. And the one that is the fifth over, you can see a straight line on it. I think these are being cut up for manufacturing wampum. Along the bottom, you have two pieces of middle woodland pottery. It's black rock trailed, and then in the fragment in the right is either going to be something like Kelso corded, or it could even be something like Muncie incised or Kingston incised. Go ahead. This is pretty much further down. Pipe stem fragment. The upper three there are all black rock trailed ceramic. A fragment of a pan tile that we found pretty deep. And then also another piece of black rock trailed in the lower right. So what we have inside the Senate House is a really nice sequence of strata going from the probably the mid-18th century all the way back to Native American occupations, at least in that particular 3-foot square, to maybe about 700 or 800 AD. And then again, evidence that there's actually there was a house there. I think if I dug up that whole room, which would be a lot of fun, I could probably find more of that. Again, what you don't know is it going into the basement of I think it's the first or second edition, so it would all be destroyed at that particular point. But there is enough in that particular room to suggest that once they have the floors down, which they do, that becomes kind of like a time capsule for Kingston's prehistory and history in the future. Go ahead. This is the Pearson House. This is on the very bottom, you have what is that? Crown Street. On the left, you have John Street, and then on the upper right, you actually have the parking lot near the Ulster County Jail. So what you're seeing here is phase one is the original portion of the Pearson House. Phase two is the second edition. Phase three is the location that we excavated in 2020. I'm sorry, 2000. And we also did some stuff outside in the yard. You'll see shovel tests. You'll see kind of a strange looking excavation unit, excavation unit 14. So what we found here in unit 1 and also in unit 2 on the outside were evidence for the burning of Kingston. So next one. So this is on the inside. This is running, hey, Raleigh, can you go back? So if you were to draw a line in the phase 3 going from the left to the right, almost where the door is, that's that particular profile. Go ahead, Raleigh. So what we did was the folks at the County of Ulster peeled the flooring up, and they left the original wooden beams in. And you'll actually see a plan of that in my book. We dug a really long trench from one side of the phase 3 edition all the way to the other. And what you can see here is the wooden beam that's supporting the floor that they took up. Then basically an open kind of area underneath that, context 16, 17, 19, 25, 81. That was loose soil underneath the floor joists. And that was overlying a mortar floor, which was put down probably in the early 18th century, just to kind of lock in maybe smells, or just to basically provide something that would be, I don't know, maybe locking in the smells. I'm probably going with that the best. It was basically a really light clay mortar with horsehair and also with straw. Underneath that, you can see those black lines going across. That's the burn layer from June 7, 1663. The post molds that you're seeing there, context 55, 60, and 61, that is the southern portion of the palisade from the stockade in Kingston. And of course, the other post moldy looking kind of things are just different post molds that we had a hard time figuring out. The RNs are rat nests. We had a lot of rat nests inside the phase 3 portion of the Pearson house, and the rats really made a mess of the stratigraphy, so it was very, very difficult to link everything up, and then also make sure that there wasn't contamination of one context from another. Go ahead, Raleigh. So we found these. I had no idea what these were. These are really, really cool. Found these in the Pearson house, and I brought them up to Paul Huey up at Parks and Rec, and he pulled out some of the ones that he had from the Senate House. When I got the collection from NYU that had the stuff from Clinton Avenue, I went through it, and there were also some fragments of ceramic stove tile in that collection. So the three locations that have these ceramic stove tiles are the Senate House, Clinton Avenue, and basically the Pearson House, and they haven't been found anywhere else. These are called Schuschelkaschel. Go ahead. This is what they look like. These are the ones from the Senate House. This is Joe McAvoy's drawing. What you're seeing here is, if you look at the bottom, that's kind of an open bowl. And on the upper two drawings, you can see these long, skinny little lines that have been kind of like engraved into the ceramic, so that you can actually use this to lock in with mortar. So Raleigh, go back to the previous one. So you can see those lines right there. This is to basically form a kind of like a key that you would see in lath and plaster walls, but this is for mortar to actually mortar these things together. Go ahead. So that's Joe McAvoy's drawing, and then go one more. So these are what these look like. This is from Magdeburg. This is from 1519. This guy is sweeping a floor. He's got a leaded glass window to the upper right, but he's also got a ceramic tile stove in the back left. So what's happening here is you're heating up this ceramic stove, and these things throw off an enormous amount of heat. This particular one in the left here is located in the corner of this room. It's probably got a chimney right up near the ceiling to take the smoke out. But these are variously unglazed ceramic. In some cases, they have a lead glaze on them also. These are still being produced in Germany. And of course, they're found on archaeological sites all across Germany, and I think also in Czechoslovakia, if I remember right. But these are really, really cool, and they're kind of like the precursor to a Franklin stove, but they're made out of ceramic. Go ahead. Then we found these little guys, speaking of German and Dutch stuff. These are called Waldglas, or German forest glass. These are from primarily the units outside underneath the sidewalk, which is where we got most of them. So the one in the lower left is called a prunt. It's called a raspberry. The other two are just round prunts. And on the upper two, you actually see what's called a coil wound foot. And then on the upper right, you see part of the coil wound foot, and then what's called a hemispherical bowl. And what these little fragments look like is this. Go ahead, Raleigh. This didn't turn out as well as I would have liked. Basically, this is a hemispherical bowl from the Jerome Strauss collection at the Corning Museum of Glass. This is what you would be drinking your wine or your your cider or your beer out of anytime from around 1600 to around 1680. So you can see the raspberry prunts on it. You can see the coil wound foot at the bottom. These have been found in Albany, in Kingston. A lot of them have been found in New York City, and we found one raspberry prunt at Huguenot Street in 2019. Only evidence for Vault glass on Huguenot Street. Go ahead. So these are some of the contact period trade items. We have beads across the top, beads in the lower left, all the way coming across to the red and black bead, right above the 11 and 12 on the scale. And then just above the number 13, a little piece of wampum. And then right above the number 14 on that scale is a very, very small copper bead. That would just be a very small piece of copper that's been rolled, and it wouldn't look that dirty in the 17th century. It would have had that shiny, kind of coppery look that your pipes have down in the basement. And again, some of these really are pretty early, especially the one with the redwood bead with the black center, the third from the right in the lower right. Go ahead. So this is the Pine Street African Burial Ground, and basically, I'm wearing advertising for it right now, Harambe. Basically, this is Ross and a grad student at SUNY New Paltz in geology, and John Rayburn there with his little SUNY New Paltz black blazer on. This is what ground penetrating radar looks like on the ground. We set up a big grid, and what I did was I took those ropes that you see right there, and I made markings on the rope in red and blue magic marker to mark 1 meters and 50 centimeters. So what John is doing is he's basically making sure that Ross goes from where that little orange flag is to the far flag on the other side. So he's going to go all the way across. And so what he does is, in this case, he's going east to west. So he's going to do all the transects east to west, and then he's going to go, I'm sorry, east to west, and then he's going to go north to south, and then he's going to put something together that is 3D. Go ahead, Raleigh. Kind of like that. So where Ross was standing would be right down in the lower right, where you see that kind of like red flash just above the 8-0. This is what the Pine Street graveyard looks, at least a portion of it, looks at 4 feet down, or 1.2 meters. What you can see is there are a lot of anomalies. The ones that are long and going from top to bottom are probably burials. Some of the ones in that right portion of the blue box that have bright red on them are burials, as well as possibly gravestones that were flattened out. And in the upper portion, you can actually see where there's a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, like five or six people in a group, and then some people or some other anomalies next to them. And that's the thing about ground penetrating radar. It doesn't tell you what it is. It just tells you it's an anomaly. So then you have to do what we call ground truthing it. Go ahead, Raleigh. This is Pine Street African Burial Ground 2022. This is literally the day after the tornado came down Wall Street. It hit our excavation at the DeWitt plot at the Old Dutch Church first, and then it came right down Pine Street and right between Pine and Fair. It took all these huge locust trees out, and then also took our site literally apart at the Pine Street. I'm sorry, at the DeWitt plot. Go ahead. So one of the things that happened literally in the first couple of days of our excavation at Pine Street was that the septic line failed from the building. You can see there on the left, the green building, going out underneath the street to the City of Kingston sewer lines. So one of the things that archaeologists always do is whenever there's deep digging anywhere, or we can jump into a pit, we do it. And so Ken Nystrom jumped into this particular pit with the guys working on the sewer line, and go ahead, Raleigh. Found the gravestone of the only person whose name we actually have from the Pine Street African Burial Ground. So this is Caesar Smith. He died January 6th, I'm sorry, 26th, 1839 at 41 years. Caesar was born a slave and basically died a free man. He is buried somewhere in the graveyard. We don't know. It's most likely that he got disturbed by the construction of the what is now the Pine Street African Burial Grounds headquarters at 157 Pine Street, maybe about 1905. We're not really sure, but this is our only name at this particular point. I might also add that Caesar Smith, interestingly enough, also owned the building that is now the People's Place. That's a really nice tie-in for the very fact that here you have a person who was enslaved, became a free man, was a very successful businessman in Kingston, and then basically bought property right along Broadway and on St. James Street. Go ahead. This is the PSABG 2024 ceremony. So I didn't include 2024 in the book because I had to take 10,000 words out, and I was also reaching a point where I had to kind of wrap it up and stop including things that were happening in 2024. So I don't have another excavation at the Senate House by Hartkin Archaeological Associates. I didn't have the report from the Hoteling Cemetery, which is the Pine Street Medical Clinic, where they found, I think, 27 or 20, I'm sorry, 29 people. And then I also didn't include the Pine Street African Burial Ground excavation that SUNY New Paltz did in 2024. So I just thought I'd put that in there. Go ahead. There are the folks that worked on the Pine Street African Burial Ground, some of whom are on the list here. I see Ashley on the list. I see Madeline Moran, who basically are in these pictures. And this photo was taken by Ken Nystrom because he's not in it and I am. So that tells me that this is one of his photos. Go ahead. So the DeWitt Family Association, most notably Gage DeWitt and Justin DeWitt, contacted us in 2020 during COVID to try to find their progenitor in North America. The guy's name is Cherrick Clazen DeWitt, who came over from Friesland in the early 17th century and died in Kingston in 1700. And so it took, since we were in the middle of COVID for 2020 and 2021, it took us a while to kind of get this together. So what we did was we got MOAs, a memorandum of agreement with the Old Dutch Church, with the DeWitt Family Association. And in 2022, when we were just starting the Pine Street African Burial Ground, I took 5 people from the Pine Street African Burial Ground and started to look for Cherrick Clazen DeWitt. This particular photo here is from the New York State Museum. It shows the gravestone of Andres DeWitt. You see ADW there, 1710. That is Andres DeWitt. That is one of the sons of Cherrick Clazen DeWitt, whose grave is marked by a post. And we see that throughout the documented literature from the 1850s, all the way through the Civil War and into the early 20th century, where there's a wooden post in the graveyard. One of the things you'll notice here is that Andre's gravestone is facing in the wrong direction. So there's got to be something happening here in terms of the way this particular family wanted to memorialize not only their progenitor or the first DeWitt in North America, but also the fact that Andres was his son. So he's actually pointing his gravestone south instead of actually pointing it. It should be the writing should be facing west. So that we found really interesting. Now this particular stone, if anybody's interested, is in the the lobby or the southern portion of the Old Dutch Church. So if you come in the southern portion and the lights are on, you'll see a glass case and you'll see the ADW stone there. It was broken off probably in a storm in the 1920s or 30s. Since it is the oldest gravestone at the Old Dutch Church, it was brought inside. And what I'm going to do is show you what the bottom of that looks like. Okay, go ahead. So this is the first day at the DeWitt plot. In the upper left, you can see where people have actually put a different marble stone in to mark where the ADW stone is. That particular stone, I'm not sure who that was or the other two stones in the this particular plot here, but sometimes they just put those in because they're broken and they kind of want to give that idea that the graveyard's a little more full. A lot of these stones have fallen apart. You can see the one in the upper left. I think that's a DeWitt stone. Needs some serious reconstruction. So what I did was I had Gage and Justin set up. This is a 3-meter square, and the reason I did that is I wanted them to put the first big unit in the location where they thought their progenitor would be, because I didn't want to make the mistake of having to say, "Oh no, I put it in the wrong spot." I would let them do that. Go ahead. So this is after we took off probably about the first 10 centimeters, which is about 4 inches of soil. And what you're seeing here is these stones that are partial, that are set in concrete, which we immediately after we mapped them in, took them out. Go ahead. These are SUNY New Paltz students. Which way we're looking here? Oh yeah, okay. So I'm looking across the street at the other side of Wall Street, which is where the bank is. If you look at the wall profile on the right and the back, you'll see a gray layer. That is an ash layer that's probably from around the early 1900s. We have an early 1900s coin from that. So what's happening in Kingston up in the Wall Street area is probably during the winter when there's snow on the ground, local people are throwing their coal ash into the graveyard. It's, if you're living nearby, you don't have to schlep it anywhere. You don't have to wait for somebody to pick it up. So we have this ash lens that gets really smaller as it comes back towards me taking the photograph, and it gets thicker and thicker as it heads towards those banners on the fence right there. Go ahead. So this is what you're seeing here is the base of the ADW stone, kind of looking down on it, and also right behind it, to the top of that, you see like a black stain. That's where the wooden post for Cheraclace and DeWitt would have been. And these would have been held together by an iron strap as well as two what are called pintles that you actually use for hanging a Dutch door. Right to the right of the ADW stone is a portion of the decorative motif from 1852 on the outside of the church. So a couple pieces broke and they just kind of threw them out in the churchyard. And we have pieces from the 1852 construction of the Old Dutch Church. What's cutting across there at the bottom is an electrical line going to a sign, and we're really lucky we didn't hit that with a shovel because somebody would have lit up. Normally when you have an electrical line, it's supposed to be buried 18 inches deep, and it's also supposed to be in like a plastic PVC conduit. We got real lucky on that one. Go ahead. Here's just another shot. This is looking east. Is that looking east? Yeah, this is looking east. So what you're seeing is kind of a pedestal that we left. Right above the word plot on the menu board, you can see a brown piece of wood. That's a piece of the cedar post from Cheraclace and DeWitt's burial post. What else do we have here? We also, you can see on the left over there, about midway up, what they did probably pretty deep in some of these graves is they actually laid stones down at the head of the burials. We think that's probably so that if you want to put somebody on top of somebody else, which is what happened with Andres was actually buried right on top of Cherrick. I mean, literally about maybe 8 or 9 inches difference in terms of soil. And so we did have situations where people were literally buried in groups, kind of like right on top of each other, kind of like that. Go ahead, Raleigh. Okay, this is my last slide. So this is the folks from the DeWitt plot who are basically washing artifacts from what we found at the DeWitt plot. And we found quite a bit. We found clamshells, oysters, we found nails, different kinds of window glass, snuff bottle fragments, a lot of decanter fragments, and a lot of very, very good quality drinking glass vessels that, I don't know, maybe they were broken during celebrations at Christmas or New Year's Eve, and they just kind of whipped them out into the snow in the first half of the 19th century. But a lot of the stuff goes from around 1830 to around maybe 1860. So that's my last slide. Questions?
This is the time for questions, everybody. If you have one, please, this is a good time to speak up. Or you can send your question via the chat feature. Joe, that electric line in the middle of that site really was disturbing. That could have really done some damage, I assume.
Yeah, once we realized that, it was there, we actually just worked around it. I think at one particular point I had pink flagging on it so people would not, fall over it or, again, hit it with a trowel or a sharp shovel or something kind of like that.
That was a close call. So, it was a wonderful presentation. So this is a good time. Anyone have any questions for Joe? Be sure to unmute yourself.
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Um, what do the artifacts that you find tell you about whether the native people and the settlers how they interacted together, in the same places, or did they at the same time?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you're looking at the historical records in the Kingston court minutes, you realize that there's kind of like a tense relationship between the Native Americans, the Munsee, and the settlers. That becomes even more tense in the first week of June 1663 when people move out into Hurley and start to fortify it. And that was something that they were not supposed to do. So we have the first and second war, the first Esopus War, we have the second Esopus War. By the time you have the end of the first Esopus War in 1658, you have Stuyvesant moving all of the Dutch up onto that terrace in what is now Uptown Kingston. So in September of 1658, he gets everybody together. They choose a spot, they move up there, and then it's just a matter of, can you get them to take apart their barns, their houses, and move from low-lying areas along the Esopus Creek to basically up on the terrace, which is now Uptown Kingston. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yes, but I guess did they cooperatively live at any point? I guess.
During the first and second Esopus Wars, not really that much. And then again, during certain points, you would actually have Native Americans being captured and sent down to the Caribbean as slaves. So they were not getting along all that well. Although there were treaties, there were gifts, there were gifts to basically keep treaties going, so that they were getting along. Again, it's just a matter of looking back at the record to try to determine how well. One of the things I noted in my book is that Stuyvesant suggested to the folks in Wiltwyck to basically give them what are called Nuremberg wares. Nuremberg wares at the time would have been large mugs that were made in Westerwald that were used primarily for alcohol consumption. So I don't think that was a really great idea. But basically, they could have been using it for water or soup or something else, but those are normally used for alcohol consumption.
Thank you.
Joe, did you see this question? Why were the armory artifacts sent to New Jersey?
Oh, that's where the lab was. Um, the archaeological company, Louis Berger and Associates, have a very large lab down in Orange, New Jersey. So that's they're down there. I don't know where they are now. They might actually be at the New York State Museum. I would think they probably are at the New York State Museum now.
The most surprising thing to you about the DeWitt dig?
That we actually found our man. I mean, we worked a weekend to make sure that we actually got Cheroklees and DeWitt. I actually had former students coming in from prior years that had osteoarchaeological experience. I had Jim Decker there working one day on a Saturday or Sunday. We had to actually spend a Saturday and Sunday, probably in about 110-degree heat, spending that extra time to get deeper so that we could actually get below Andres DeWitt to get to Cheroklees and DeWitt. So basically, I'm just very, very happy that we actually made it all work. We also were under a time constraint. Rob Sweeney said this is going to be a one-shot deal. So basically, the idea is that we wanted to get it done and get it over with.
So the DeWitt Historical Society, which has joined us this evening, Joe, did Gage tell you that Doug Bradley, Mr. Jumbo, found out that the Hoffman House was where Cherrick's house was?
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But
How
then of course, after that, he moved outside the stockade area out off of Hurley Avenue.
how did the Brewerton points differ from the other arrowheads?
The Brewerton points are generally going to be corner notched, side notched. There's an eared triangle, and then there's an eared notched, and they're all basally ground. There's also another one from the Brewerton phase that is actually I'm sorry, the Vosburg phase in the Hudson Valley, that is a triangle. And basically those are going on spears, javelins, or darts. They're not actually going on a bow and arrow. So those triangular ones are much, much later.
Here's a question. Are you familiar with the Nicholas Treaty of 1665? And can you speak to it?
I can't speak to it per se. I mean, I haven't read it in a long time, but it is that treaty that that was written and signed by a number of sachems. This is 2 years after the Second Esopus War, so this kind of calmed things down quite a bit. And of course, if you're looking at different kinds of presence, things like wampum belts and all that that occur after that, that are ways of keeping the treaty alive and basically kind of like updating it. That's the whole idea behind those treaty belts.
Chester Hartwell is asking a question that came to my mind as well. The arrowheads over time seem to get simpler. I recall in your slides that 6,000 years ago, Arrowhead had flanging out at the bottom, like was carved so you could tie rope around and stuff, whereas arrowheads much later, closer to our time, were simpler. Um, is that a pattern is that just coincidental for these photos, or is that something you see over time?
Well, actually, but when you kind of think about it, those early ones I showed, the ones that had the big notching on them, the Otter Creek points, most of those are very heavy. When you get to the bat and kill phase, where you have these really large Genesee points about this big, there's no way you're going to put those on a bow on an arrow. So what happens over time is right around 700 AD. Actually, we even have these huge projectile points at about 500 AD. They're called Fox Creek Fox Creek Lancelet and Fox Creek. And then there's a big green point that is about this big also that are kind of the last projectile points that go on spears. To make something work on on an arrow, though, you have to have something that's very, very light and very sharp. You can't put, let's say, a Genesee point on an arrow because it's going to go about 10 feet and then stick into the ground. So you have to have something that's light and deadly. So as a consequence, at about 700 AD, you start to see these very, very small triangular points being manufactured, and they get smaller and more deadly as you get closer to 1609. Really, really deadly little things.
There's a question here with regards to colonial manu. Well, before I get to that, where did were they clamshells? Pieces of
Those are clam, yeah.
Where did the clamshells come from? Where would they have come from?
They would have come from the New York City area.
New York
So
City.
those are coming from down in either New York Bay or Long Island. They're being brought up. One of the things about the Dutch is they love their oysters and they love their clams. And so basically, and the other thing is, when you think about the time period from the 1650s all the way up into the 1750s, 1760s, the main form of coinage is wampum. We don't have any form of currency. We have little things like little silver coins that are European that people are cutting up into small fragments, like what you're familiar with, like pieces of 8. Nobody's actually minting coins, and we're not using any kind of paper currency. So what people are doing is they're making these small beads, they're stringing them, and then basically those have a value that you can trade among, let's say, the Dutch, between the Dutch and the English, and also with Native Americans. So wampum is actually currency.
And so that leads to the question from Lorna Smemen, is there other evidence that European colonials were manufacturing wampum?
In the Kingston court minutes, there's a guy named God, what is his name? Claes de Ruyter. Claes de Ruyter is a guy living in the stockade area who is actually manufacturing wampum. We also see in one situation in downtown Albany on State Street a building where they were actually making shell beads all the way into the 1760s for currency.
Okay. Is there a way to know if the earliest settlements were temporary or permanent based on the items you found?
Well, the early ones that I showed from, let's say, down around Kingston Point and Pankaki, from around 10,000 BC right up until probably the BC AD boundary, people are pretty much on the move. Populations are getting larger. And by the time you get to a point at, again, around the BC AD boundary, you probably have cultigens coming in from the American Southeast, like corn or beans, definitely squash. And these people start to settle down and become a lot more sedentary, living in small hamlets. So we have what is probably a hamlet down in Pankaki, which is where the Perry site, the Hendrickson site, and Perry and Hendrickson sites are. Basically, people are living there. They're living right where the Rondout and the Wallkill come together and enter the Hudson. Tons of food. You've got mussels, you've got sturgeon, you've got striped bass, alewives. We have a site down at Kingston Point that's got Atlantic tomcod at about 3200 BC inside a house foundation. So basically, it's a really good place to live in terms of food. The food in the spring just comes right to you.
So another question here is from John Decker that says, was there much interaction between Kingston settlers and New Paltz?
Oh yeah, definitely. The folks in New Paltz actually came to what would be Wildwijk first, and then basically some of them moved into Hurley, and then after the treaty in New Paltz, they started moving into New Paltz. So we have most of those Huguenot names showing up in the records in Kingston and in Hurley. And if you look at the Kingston court minutes, you'll see most of those names showing up with in kind of variations depending on the spelling, the French spellings. But they're there, and then basically they kind of move down to New Paltz. I'm not sure if the bricks for the early buildings at New Paltz were being constructed from clay along the Wallkill, or basically if they're being brought down from Cornelius Hogeboom's pottery factory near Washington Avenue, kind of near where Dysings is right now. It would be easy to just transport those down on a wagon going down to New Paltz, but not really sure yet.
Have you, let's see, have there been or maybe in the future excavations down in the Rondout area specifically for evidence of early boat building or just of boats?
Again, that would actually be probably down along the Strand, and that would be very complicated because of water lines, sewer lines, gas lines, everything kind of like that. So that would be it would be interesting. If people want to see boats, what you can do is go to Google Satellite and go out over Kingston Point and look at the that little bay in there. At different times of the year, you can see barges and you can see small sloops that are that show up in the water. Also, the other thing you can do is just kayak out there at low tide or the dropping tide, and you can actually see boats in the water among the lily pads.
Didn't the Linda Tentillo says or asks, didn't the colonists making of wampum flood and devalue the Native American wampum?
Well, it's still wampum. So basically, it still has a value. The other thing to kind of keep in mind is that the Dutch had nothing on their own. We have very, very few Dutch coins on sites in North America. They're pretty rare. Even though the Dutch are actually making wampum, they're actually making it as much for themselves as to trade with Native Americans. So Native Americans are trading things like corn, they're trading pelts, they're trading for different kinds of foodstuffs. And basically, the one constant is wampum. And I might also add that the wampum fluctuates in value depending on the year and the amount of it out there, and then also it also fluctuates depending on if it's white or black wampum. The black wampum is much more valuable than the white.
Joe, that elicits a question in my mind that I've been interested in a while. Is there a book or research on the economics of Native American cultures?
They're more specific. They're kind of like they're more aerial studies from like a particular region or something like that. If you're looking at books on economy, it's going to be something like Cahokia. There might be some on, let's say, the Haudenosaunee for different groups going across from Schenectady to Buffalo among the Huron, that kind of thing. So it's not like one size fits all. Depending on the time period and which particular group you're talking about, the economies are kind of different. The other thing also is everything changes when you start to have cultigens moving up from Mexico. So definitely everything changes at that particular point also.
Fascinating. Okay, thank you. Were the Wiltwyck settlers using the Old Mine Road to get to the Delaware Water Gap copper mine?
The Yeah, this is good. For folks that actually might know about this, Herb Kraft wrote a book called The Old Mine Road, where he kind of demolishes that idea. He said there really wasn't enough copper down there to actually mine, and basically the most of the road is basically 18th century. So it's not something that is a situation where they're trying to get copper from down below Ellenville all the way up to the Rondout. So I would highly recommend Herb's book. It's called The Old Mine Road. There's also another one by Hine. I think that came out about 1904 or 1905. So Herb's book basically kind of blows that one out of the water because he did much more historical research at the New York State Museum.
Okay. Um, let's see. For how long did permanent human habitations exist in the area where the Esopus flows into the Hudson before European arrival?
Where the Esopus flows into the Hudson. Um, Up there, probably. I'm saying just to be safe, maybe about 7 or 8 thousand years. However, we do have Paleo-Indian points um, at Kingston Point up on the sand terraces that were mined out by the brickyards back in the 19th century. In William Ritchie's book on Paleo-Indians in New York State, we have a one of the earliest projectile points in the Hudson Valley being found right there on those sand terraces overlooking Kingston Point. So that would be right around 12,000 plus years ago.
Mhm.
And that's probably our earliest occupation in Kingston, right during the end of um, uh, the Pleistocene, the ice age and the Pleistocene. So you have the ice ages are I'm sorry, the ice sheets are retracting up towards Canada, and you have Glacial Lake Albany there, big sand terrace overlooking post-glacial Lake Albany, and you have people hanging out on it probably around 12,000 years ago.
Excuse me, were there any artifacts found that shows evidence of the Dutch West India Company's role in the settlement?
Um, well, we don't have anything that's labeled from the Dutch West India Company. Sometimes on sites like at Fort Orange or in New Amsterdam, and even on other sites around the world that are the Dutch East India Company's or Dutch West India Company's sites, you sometimes find things that are marked with their marks. But to my knowledge, we have nothing from Kingston, or I should say Wildwijk.
Okay. The last question I see here must be an inside joke. Has anyone seen the Hobgoblin?
That is an inside joke. That's got to be from a DeWitt.
Mark Sanders?
Oh yeah,
Mark?
Mark. Okay, yeah, Mark is a DeWitt. Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, there don't seem to be any more questions on the chat at this point, but um, anyone have want to ask any questions after you unmute yourself before um, we finish for the evening? Any more questions? Anything you want to say, Joe?
Yeah. So I looked here. I just saw Chester's Old Mine Road by Hine. I didn't see that before. So Chester, what you need to do is get uh what's his name's book? I just blanked it out. It's getting late. um the book that I mentioned that kind of blows it out of the water because he goes through it. Herb Craft does a really nice job on it, and he's got some great documents from New York State Museum that actually kind of blow Hine's book. It is still early, I know, but I've been teaching since like 8:30 this morning. So basically, get Herb Craft's book on the Old Mine Road. It's a really good book.
All right. The folks from the DeWitt Historical Society. It's still early, Joe.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody, Joe's book comes out on Saturday, November 1st
Oh, thank you.
on on Amazon. And Joe, do you know if it's going to be retailed by any local bookstores?
I don't know yet. As part of the marketing plan, SUNY Press asked me to make a list of locations around Kingston, Woodstock, other locations that have bookstores that can be marketed in. So they have a full list of everything from, I think, Catskill to New Paltz to Woodstock all the way into Dutchess County.
Okay, terrific. Okay, well, um, I want to say a big thank you to you, Joe, for really a very informative presentation. And I want to thank everybody tonight for turning out. We had a great attendance this evening. Please be sure to join the Hurley Heritage Society for our annual end of the year holiday boutique on the Saturday and Sunday after Thanksgiving at the museum. It's a standard event that has great opportunities for buying deals on some excellent holiday decorations and much more. Stay tuned for details on that event and more on the Hurley Heritage Society on our website and our Facebook page. With that, I would like to wish everyone a wonderful evening and thank you very much for your time and participation. Take care.
Catch you guys later.